so many ideas going on in this project, but it's just the start.
Good design is all about creating that moment of bliss.
This is really also the hospitality and the tourism of tomorrow.
This is what we want to show.
We have created something which blends into the environment, and the house itself is basically seamless.
Imagine you were able to just teletransport.
You are on your own island in the center of Amsterdam.
I think you have to go there to believe it.
Hello. Our second Chinese finalist in the awards this year is the winner of the shopping category. This project's called New Alley Old Story. We're in Yangtze, Nanchang, and here to introduce a presentation. Welcome to Shanghai Urban Architecture Design Company. Hello.
I'm very happy to share with you some ideas about this urban renewal project. At present, the majority of urban expansion or renewal in China are in the way of making a brand new city or new blocks, and most of them are not related to the original site and context. This time, we want to try a different way. Let's start with a video. The project is located in Nanchang, a city with a history of 1,000 years in China, and in the center area of the city. The surrounding area is named after a historic site, Three Wells. Hundreds of years ago, it was the core city of Nanchang, so there are many different styles of buildings preserved in the site from the Ming Dynasty to Qing Dynasty to the Republic of China and modern times. Here are some historical maps we found in the archives. Red area is the location of our site. Except for a few historic production buildings, most of them are dilapidated. However, after investigation, we think that it is the architectural personality in many historical periods that is the biggest feature of this base. If they are integrated into the new community, it will be very interesting. The left side is master plan, and the right side is comparison between the original street texture and our design. We retain the texture of the main street to continue the memory of the venue. The two main streets in the site have a history of hundreds of years. As the main streamline of the commercial street, we did not follow the common scale of the commercial street, but retained the relatively narrow original scale. With the main streamline at the core, some gardens and small squares with different sizes and functions are designed to connect all the commercial shops. Several entrance plazas with different styles are designed along the street. combining with the four main historical features of the original buildings. By combining, we divided the buildings into three categories. First, the original building is reserved or rebuilt as it was. Second, it's not rebuilt as it is, but it retains the architectural style of the time. Third, integrate individual historical elements into new buildings. All the buildings are more or less related to the original buildings in the site, and none of them is isolated from the context. Some of these buildings are particularly impressive in our design process, and we think they can best represent the diversity of buildings in the site. This is a protected building with a history of hundreds of years. During the Qing dynasty, candidates who went to Beijing for the exam would live here as a rest station on the way. Due to the long history, some of the components are out of repair. We first carried out the overall surveying and mapping, and then retained most of the stone components. Bricks and wood were replaced. This is a traditional local stage. We have restored the stage in the middle of Commercial Square with the same way as they built it hundreds of years ago. This ordinary residence was originally built in the 1970s. Many components in the building are very representative. Although it is not a historical protection building, we think it helps to continue the memory of the plot. When it's finished, it's just faced to the entry square on the east side of the block. The building was originally illegal, but the way it was built and the texture of the brick walls were very interesting. We extracted these architectural elements and applied them to the new commercial buildings. When completed, it will serve as a cafe. The name also fits our design concept, sculpting time. This is the newest building on the site. We extract elements from the wall texture of the original building and use parametric methods to generate a new wall texture. The glass box is located just opposite the wooden stage I showed just now, which serves as a viewing platform. At least 2 or 3 different architecture styles can be seen in each entrance square. It can also form a unique commercial street interface. The width of the 2 main streets is between 4 meters and 10 meters. Combined with the entrance square, it can accommodate various types of civil and commercial activities. The facade of the 2 streets combines a variety of architecture styles from the Ming Dynasty to modern times. Walking in the street, you can feel the imprint left by the change of time. There are not only shops built by modern parametric construction methods, but also original wood structure stage. It creates a sense of time and space travel. At present, the project has been completed, but the promotion and operation are still in preparation. We are very pleased to find that, even if most shops are not open, people have come to visit, rest, and play from morning to night. The following is a video that we shot recently. We hope that, after the whole project is put into operation, it will become a favorite commercial project in the city, and can provide a high-quality community public space for the surrounding residents.
Okay, that's our presentation.
Thank you very much. An intriguing project, and great to see it kind of approach to older architecture, which doesn't involve meaningless demolition. Nuno, would you like to start?
But very interesting project. We are now juries on this, but in the end of the day, we are all architects, so we are all colleagues. So we all face the same challenges when we work on this project. We have been making several projects in China, and it's actually quite nice to see this project because it's one of the biggest challenges we have sometimes is how to it's not easy, especially working in Shenzhen a lot of times, and it's not easy to kind of follow history. A lot of times the client or the politicians want to demolish everything and they want to see a spaceship growing there, and we, because we come from Europe, we are foreign architects, they expect us to build spaceships. So it's very nice to see that is not the approach everywhere, and I hope that we also that we will get clients that we are able to develop ideas of the type, because it's much more interesting to kind of regenerate the city, use and history is like is layers, no? So when you look at it's like there's a lot of layers. You can never delete everything and expect it to clean up from the beginning. So all that layers, I think in your project you can see those layers accumulating on top of each other, next to each other. That's what makes a city, the complexity of all the histories of time. I have no questions.
Thank you very much. Okay. Kim.
Yeah, I think it's a very intriguing project as well, and I think it's good to see that it's not about demolition. It's not about just building something new, keeping some of the qualities that are in the old cities in China. Was that part of the brief, or was it your idea to do it that way?
Yes, actually, the brief tells us only 2 or 3 protection buildings need to be kept after the city renew. But after the site research, we found that there are more interesting buildings, even if they are not protected by the government. But we think it's interesting, and we need to protect some memory of this plot.
Did you demolish anything at all?
No, actually, we are mapping all the information of the protection buildings, and we set them apart and put all the components into somewhere else. Because after finish, this shopping area need a big, underground parking space. So this building need to be moved to somewhere else, and after the underground part finished, we build them again on top of the underground part.
Thank you. Abdul Kader.
I was saying that I was very interested and impressed by the way you deal with history. In fact, what I really like in your project is that it's not the preservation of the past. It's to make a new way or a new interpretation of the present. And this is really, really strong in your project, because the present is no more the new, but it's like a collage of different times of the past, the present,
Yes.
and the future. And this collage making us understand a new way to deal with the reality and the present. This is very, very strong. And I was curious to know, how did you build this kind of idea? Because what I have in mind from the philosophical point of view is that In China, there is no difference between times, the past, the present, and the future. It's only one time. It's not like in Europe where we make this separation. Is that something that you thought about there, or how we build this kind of idea?
Actually, this idea comes from after our research to this site. We found that almost just like we talk about demolish all, and sometimes we have some like historical building. They just keep this one single building and build all the other buildings as the spaceship. But this time we found that there are, it's like a history book when we went to this site. It's like a book. They have a lot of layers. You can see buildings comes from Ming Dynasty in China. It's like several 1,000 years ago. And also you can find special interesting small buildings belong to like every 100 years in China's history. So we think this is the most impressive thing for us. And the other is we think in China, basically, in most cases, the government told us this is important. This building is blah, blah. They have a lot of history. But there are lots of buildings. They are not protected by the government, but we think they also has their own value. So we decide to protect some of them and to make this site like a interesting history book. And also, like you said, we add one page of our standing of the new time. Like we also have some small glass box and some parametric building method into this site. So we imagine, for example, 100 years after, they need to rebuild this area again. Maybe they will choose some of our new design building together with the historical buildings together and to make the new city renew.
This is the dream of every architect. Christina.
So I mean it's very interesting, and it's nice to see that the world is moving towards something which is sort of carefully stitching into cities rather than the tabula rasa of the 60s where intellectual approach trumped everything else. So I think there is a wonderful sense of community, and I'm just wondering, I mean, that's why I was asking about the category, because it sort of seemed to me that this belonged in the new and old rather than the shopping category, because it talks so much about that rather than the approach to retail. So given that you are in the shopping category, can you tell us a little bit more about the approach to retail, and how did you rethink that aspect of the building, and how did you rethink about historical architecture that is not geared towards retail? Historically, I mean, I don't think in the Ming Dynasty they had big coffee shops and retail outlets. And how did you really rethink the whole typology given the site and the context that you had?
Okay, it's a very good question. So you can see from this drawing, there are lots of small buildings in our site, and we divide them into three big categories. So these two small buildings are historical protection buildings we built as it was, and the green parts, all these buildings, and red parts, actually the function is commercial. And recently I received the message that now they are going to put three small museums in this site. One is for the folk art of Nanchang. The other is for the museum of rice noodles. It's like not a traditional museum. So in that you can see the whole process of how people make the rice noodle, and you can try to make your own rice noodle as well. And the last museum is about the history of this small area, and all the other buildings
Nothing
are
to do with retail. So not much to do with retail.
Yeah, this small three museum is not retail, and all the other buildings are retail. Most of them are shops and restaurant and cafe.
I think it's quite obvious that this project could have been entered in several different categories, because clearly there's a strong cultural element to it also. You know, a delightful presentation, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.